Hey guys, welcome back to another live stream. We're going two for two today. Of course, as the title suggests, we will be talking about the closure of Y Project and really just talking about the brand and kind of how we feel about the brand and really just remembering the brand. In solidarity with the brand, I shall be wearing my favorite sunglasses in my collection. This is a collaboration with Y Project and Linda Farrow. So if you are watching it back, you have the provided context as to why I'm wearing sunglasses indoors like a madman. But anyway, we're gonna wear these in solidarity with Y Project today. But today should be a good, fun stream. It should be a fun stream because, we're talking about fashion I actually love. I'm no longer critiquing. Let me just wear these sunglasses quickly. I'm no longer critiquing a brand, a luxury brand that I think, is horrible, or we're not talking about bad quality things, at least not for now. So yeah. How is everyone doing though? How did everyone take to the news with Y Project closing down? How do you guys feel about that? Micah says I stand with Y Project. Me too. Me too. I definitely stand with Y Project as well. I'm definitely with you on that one. But anyway, without further ado, let's hop straight into it. With these streams, I'm getting a lot better at jumping straight into the topic without spending too much time pondering about things. Um, so what I'm going to do is share their Instagram. We're going to read the statement that they shared via their Instagram because I think it's going to be very important to read and to discuss. So, via their Instagram, as you guys can see here, they made a statement. So it says, "It is with great gratitude and sadness that the Y Project team announces we will be officially closing the brand after 14 incredible years. We could not have achieved such success without the unwavering support of our Y Project partners, collaborators, and fans, and we cannot extend enough thanks to you for your unwavering dedication throughout the years. We especially want to thank Glenn Martens and Pascal Conte-Jodra and the late Gilles Elalouf and Yohan Serfaty for giving us Y Project and the chance to create and grow together." And like they said, pictured here is Glenn Martens and the past and present Y Project team dressed in fall winter 24 and unreleased spring summer 2025. Now, first thing I want to go over, because I saw a big point that people were saying, like a big conversation people are having, was that why wouldn't there be an investor? Why isn't there an investor that wants to buy into Y Project? Because Y Project is a brand that a lot of people in fashion love. A lot of people in fashion are very interested in the brand, and I think it's a brand that, is respected in fashion circles. However, when you look deeper as to the reason why they closed in the first place, they were in serious financial trouble. Really, really bad financial trouble. I was reading an article via BOF where they reported that the company was placed in receivership in September last year following the death of the co-founder and owner at the time, Gilles Elalouf, last June. He is actually one of the co-founders, and he's more like the business person. Like, he was the business brains of the brand, right? And when something goes into receivership, for people that don't know, it is actually quite serious. It's when someone essentially is put in charge of a company to kind of recoup lost funds. So of course that means they were in serious debt, and that was someone in charge of possessing the assets to try and get the money that someone is owed. So obviously massive financial issues. Now, if you buy a company like that in those kind of issues, you would have to pay off the debts first before even thinking about any sort of financial profits or what we're going to do with the brand. So it's not a very lucrative thing. It's very much, it was almost in a position where if you're investing in that brand, it's more of like a passion project than anything to do with thinking about making any sort of money, at least not in the near future. So that's why mainly there wasn't an investor, because I know a lot of people are asking those questions, Y Project, people love the brand, but the business realities of the brand meant that, it didn't really make a lot of sense um, to start the brand, to be honest. So yeah, that's essentially what happened. Of course, they had recent clearance sales in Paris as they were getting rid of excess stock, and those were huge. People were buying things at really, really good prices and, buying a lot of their grails for nice prices. So that was good for some people, I guess, that were there to capitalize on that. Um, but yeah, it's really, really sad. I mean, I'm a big fan of Y Project. I have been a big fan since I learnt about the brand. So yeah, it's really sad, and it just shows you the really harsh realities of the fashion industry, where it's so hard to be successful in this industry. Y Project is a company that, had over 150 stockists at one point, and even with all those stockists, still they couldn't really weather the storm. It's insane that you can have that many stockists, you can scale to that size, and still have issues. It's really, really crazy to me. I think Dion Lee also failed to find a buyer. Could it be a not standalone event? I mean, you also need to consider that luxury in general has seen major downturns. That's why all the conglomerates are feeling it. Even the massive conglomerates that have the money to weather the storm, they are suffering it too. I mean, look at Kering, look at LVMH. So in general, across the board, we have seen a downtick in people buying luxury in droves, and the growth has definitely slowed down. So I think it's always going to affect smaller companies and smaller brands than it will affect, the big, massive companies, because they can always weather the storm in the short term. Over the long term is a different conversation, but 2, 3, 4, 5 years, they have the capital to really weather those storms. So yeah, that's kind of what has been going on. Boaz says the difference between Dion Lee and Y Project is that Dion Lee is just a small brand, but Y Project made the noise of a big brand. I mean, it's not just the noise. They also had the stockists that would suggest they were quite a well-to-do brand. Like having over 150 stockists worldwide is crazy. Um, Not saying that all that money goes to them. I've told you guys about some of the terrible contracts and deals that some of these young brands sign, especially when you don't have leverage on your side. So not everything is in their favor, but still, there's no tiny brand that has 150 stockists worldwide, to be honest. At that point, you're definitely making millions. And kind of what Tarek is saying, it just hits the smaller companies harder. Yeah, for sure. For sure. But yeah, it's really, really sad, like I've said. When we talk about the history of the brand, Y Project was a brand that was co-founded in 2010 by Gilles Elalouf, who was the business brains, and Yohan Serfaty. Yohan is a designer that had his eponymous label and had been designing for his eponymous label. And Y Project was actually started as kind of like a side sub brand. And at the start, it was almost seen as like a diffusion line for his eponymous label. But over time, it kind of developed into its own thing, its own separate thing, which is very interesting to see. I would say that the aesthetic of the brand at the time was very akin to, the kind of brands that you would see in Darklands, the kind of like Boris Bejança, Barry, Julius, Rick Owens, Damir Doma, around that realm. That was what the aesthetic of the brand was. You very much see like dark tones, very sharp tailoring, angular lines, really great design boots, amazing leather work and experimentation with leathers, great pattern making. And I think that Glenn Martens, because Glenn Martens obviously worked with Yohan, Glenn Martens learnt a lot of some of these specific pattern making skills, I think, working under him. And I think he kind of made them his own when he eventually took over the brand. So yeah, it was a very avant-garde brand. And it really, in the early days, picked up steam in Japan. The brand was really, really big in Japan, and it built a really strong audience in Japan. And as time progressed, the brand kind of started suffering because there were so many brands, and the market for this kind of aesthetic was almost being fully filled. Like I said, brands like Boris Berry, the Rick Owens, the Damidomas, the André Meisters. There were so many competitors at the time. And that's why eventually when Glenn Martens did end up taking over, he had to pivot and find a different aesthetic with less competition, which I thought was a very, very smart idea. I can also draw parallels to that with what's going on in fashion right now in the current day, where a lot of brands have gone through this quiet luxury understanding, and we're kind of in this quiet luxury era where a lot of brands look that way. And if a lot of them aren't careful, a lot of them will fall by the wayside because there is too much competition in that aspect of things. People need to find more of an identity when it comes to their brands. But yeah, under Yohan, I'm a big fan of his Y project, mainly because I'm just a fan of the aesthetic. I mean, when I first got into fashion, I learned about Yohji Yamamoto, as most of you know, and André Meisters is my favorite designer of all time. So that's kind of like the clothing that I'm into. Right now, I'm even wearing André Meisters, like the zip sweater. So that's kind of my vibe. That's up my alley, but I can really understand why they had to pivot. So to talk about Glenn Martens, because I think the era that everyone is familiar with when it comes to Y project is definitely Glenn Martens. So what really happened was, unfortunately, Yohan passed a few years after being at the helm of Y project, and they were looking for a replacement that could really understand the design language of the brand and carry that forward. Now, the main option, and the option that made the most sense, was Glenn Martens at the time, because Glenn Martens had worked in the past as a first assistant for Yohan Serfaty when he was working at his eponymous label, for the eponymous label, before he left to do his own thing and kind of work on his own namesake label, right? Of course, Glenn Martens is someone that has loads of experience in the industry. Shortly after studying at the Royal Academy of Fine Arts in Antwerp, he worked at Jean-Paul Gaultier. This is something that kind of had a circle back moment because he eventually ended up designing an haute couture collection at Jean-Paul Gaultier as a guest designer. This is what you guys are seeing on the screen right now for Spring Summer 22 Couture. He also did a collaboration with Jean-Paul Gaultier at Y Project. So there was kind of like a full circle moment. And sort of this optical illusion, like heat map clothing that he was doing is very Jean-Paul Gaultier also. So that was kind of like an interesting callback that happened in that era of things. So yeah, Glenn Martens very much made the brand his own, very much started to pivot because of course there was too much competition in that sense of the thing, and created Y Project into what we associate with Y Project, kind of like the manipulation of fabrics, the working with different silhouettes. And I thought it was really interesting. I think the first time I ever saw Y Project was I saw a woman walking on the streets of London wearing denim that I thought was really interesting. It was the tiered denim that they used to do, right? It was denim that looked like this. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. That's really interesting. And I was like, what brand is that? Like, what are you wearing? And she was like, Y Project. And then I really started looking deep into Y Project, learned about the history, started following the brand from then. And kind of I followed Glenn Martens' career since then. And so it was really interesting just to kind of learn about that, to be honest. Filming with the glasses is killing me. Yeah, I gave the context to me wearing these sunglasses indoors. Don't worry. Don't worry. But yeah, when it comes to Glenn Martens' Y Project, like I said, I think he still has callbacks to a lot of the things that Yohan was doing earlier in the history of the brand. So he has these kind of like scrunched fabric manipulations that he does. That is a callback to Yohan. Yohan used to do that with a lot of leather pieces. So he still maintained some of the design language from Yohan's days. A lot of people just say, oh my God, it's completely different and nothing is the same. I don't really agree with that. If you look closely, you see a lot of the references, a lot of things like high collars that he was using, that Yohan was using. So I still think that he found a way to pivot the brand and have a very unique aesthetic while also being able to still make it true to the heritage of the house, right? And to make the house its own in its own right, and to for it to be its own thing. One of my favorite collections actually from Y Project was during the lockdown, because during the lockdown they had these how to wear videos where they were showing people how exactly to style a lot of their pieces. Now, why this is really interesting is when you think of Glenn Martin's time at Y Project, a lot of the garments are really modular. They are really interchangeable. There are many different ways you can style the garments. I mean, one of the times when Y Project really started to make noise in fashion was when Y Project started to be seen as designing more women's wear. They always kind of did women's wear. Yohan was designing, women's wear, and Yohan was designing clothing that he described as genderless anyway. So women used to wear it. But in terms of showing on the women's wear schedule and doing those things, that's when it really started to make noise. Now, a lot of people, even though they understood that a lot of the garments are asymmetric and they have really different ways that you can style them, and there are all these buttons and compartments that can mean that you can transform the garments in many different ways, a lot of people still didn't really know how. And the brands, I didn't think until now, even though if you worked in fashion, you kind of knew that was the point. Until this point during COVID, I don't think they really effectively communicated how exactly you can style these things in many different ways. So I really enjoyed during the lockdowns when they made these videos actually showing, okay, these are different ways to style the pieces from the collection. These are different ways that you can wear them. I thought that was really fun and really interesting, and it shows how practical but also versatile a lot of the clothing under Glenn Martens at Y Project was. And a lot of people that I follow that wear Y Project have also shown different ways you can style it. Someone like Tuba Avalon is a very good example of that, someone I'm a big fan of. Subscribe to her YouTube channel if you're not already. I think she makes amazing videos, but she's a good example of someone I've seen wear Y Project and style the garments in different interesting ways. I love the silhouette of the green dress. Yeah, same. Same. Looking cool. Thank you very much. Observing the Matrix says there's no shortage of designers they can put at any of these house companies. At these houses, companies are just very stingy with giving people the ring of power. That's definitely true. Although I do think that's changing. I think I've noticed recently a lot of up and coming and younger designers are getting a chance to design at a lot of these houses. Whereas before, the musical chairs was only with big name designers. I think that's changing. That's no longer the case, it seems. Sadly, the clothes don't come with two employees to help you restyle it. Well, no, they don't. But what I liked about this whole series of videos was that at least now you had an understanding of how versatile your garments were, right? You don't have to buy new garments. You can just wear your garment 50 different ways, right? So that's the cool part about it. And all the assistants are going to help you with is just making the styling faster. But you can do it yourself. You can do it yourself. This is also true. I think something that also helped Glenn Martens really speak to a wider audience was through collaborations, right? There were so many good examples of collaborations that he did. Of course, the Fila collaboration. Another one that comes to mind is the collaboration they did with Uggs. That was really, really big, and that was something that everyone was talking about. But this is the Fila collaboration that I've put on the screen, where they had the polos and the different tracksuits, but styled and designed with their amazing pattern making and in that modular way where you can style it in so many different ways. And you can see the asymmetry on a lot of the polo shirts and stuff like that. Really, really cool. Really, really cool. Definitely one of the more interesting collaborations with sportswear companies. This is what I expect when I see collaborations with sportswear companies. You know, when Balenciaga did that collaboration with Under Armour that I thought was horrible because it didn't seem like a lot of design actually went into it. This looks like there was a clear fusion between Y Project and Fila, right? So that was something that I really, really loved. Michael says the UGG collab had me in a chokehold. It had everyone in a chokehold. I remember so many celebrities were wearing it. I remember even Rihanna wore the UGG collaboration to Coachella, right? What season was the UGG collaboration from? I'm trying to remember. I think it was Fall Winter 2018. Let me see if I can get that up. Yeah, it was this collection. Fall Winter 2018, where you saw like the thigh high UGG boots that had social media in a chokehold. And I think this is also something that really helped bring Y Project to the masses in terms of being able to garner social media clicks. And this is something that I think Glenn Martens is really, really good at. Even when he was hired at Diesel, we started to see more of this where he would do things that would garner a lot of social media interest, whether it's having a set full of condoms and stuff like that, that just really garners interest. I think he's really intelligent with the way that he does that, because I think his actual designs are very intelligent. Like the pattern making is actually very complex, but at the same time it's very witty. And something I really appreciate about Glenn Martin's Y Project was he used to do this thing, right, where he would take everyday garments. So he would take things like denim, take things like bomber jackets, take things like dresses, and start transforming the shapes and changing the silhouette slightly over time, and making sure that he changes them just enough to where these garments are fun and witty, but not so much that they are actually difficult to wear or they're completely avant-garde to where they just look crazy. I think people that wear Y Project still look very chic, but when you look at it visually, it looks kind of odd. It looks kind of strange. It looks kind of fun. It looks kind of witty. That was something that I really liked from his Y Project, because I think he found that perfect balance between how far can I take these everyday garments, how far can I transform the silhouette of these everyday garments without going too far to where now these things just look ridiculous. That's why you have things that are actually very wearable but cool, like the tiered denim, or the different things that he did with denim, like the different panels that he used to do. Or, you know, he would have a dress kind of like this piece you're seeing here, and just like ruffle and scrunch up one side of the neckline. It's really, really interesting how he does these things and what he was doing. Like things like this, right? Which is like an elongated, because this actually is a very massive collar, and then everything is scrunched up here. And funny enough, this is also an ode back to the heritage of the house and back to the days of Yohan, right? Who used to do this scrunched up leather technique. And so once again, when people say that, oh, it's not really, there's no correlation, I think there are loads of correlations. If you look closely, like I say, you just need to look closely. You start to see the similarities and you start to see the inspiration. Yeah, these are the Y Project sunglasses. So I'm wearing these sunglasses in solidarity with the brand. That's why I'm wearing sunglasses indoors, guys. Don't worry. Don't worry, don't worry. I haven't lost the plot. At least not yet. And these are some other examples of the UGG collaboration with Y Projects. But yeah, really, really fun. And I think it's honestly a travesty that Y Project is closing down, because I just think, and I say this all the time, a lot of brands in fashion do not have an identity. And Y Project was one of the few brands that actually had a strong identity that I used to really appreciate. And so the fact that the brands that have a good identity are going, and we're only left with these quiet, pseudo quiet luxury, kind of brands is not great. I'm not a fan of that. Danny says, wish he would have stayed at Y Project over Diesel. I mean, he couldn't stay at Y Project because financially they were about to close down anyway. So there's no way. It's literally impossible for him to stay at Y Project because it was closing down. So it makes sense why his main focus was Diesel, to be honest. It makes a lot of sense. The Melissa collab was insane and really brought something into the footwear design industry. A transparent and kind of 18th century look. Yeah. Yeah. What do you mean by identity? So, what I mean by identity is kind of like a. So, certain brands have a visual identity that's very identifiable. So, when I see a Rick Owens jacket, I know it's Rick Owens because Rick Owens has a very specific silhouette that is so distinctive and so strong that anything he makes, it's obvious. Rick Owens can make socks, and I would know it's those are Rick Owens. Rick Owens can make a bag. I'm like, oh yeah, that's Rick Owens. He can make a jacket. Oh yeah, that's Rick Owens. He can make a T-shirt. Oh yeah, that's Rick Owens. He can make a pair of gloves, and I would still know. The same thing with Y Project. Y Project, I can, if someone is wearing a skirt, I would know if it's Y Project. If they're wearing, a jacket, I'm like, oh, that's a really cool Y Project jacket. That's what I mean by they have an identity. A lot of brands these days don't have an identity because their clothing isn't distinguishable. It's very like Sabato De Sano's Gucci. Sorry to single him out, but it's kind of a good example to use. Um, his clothing could be many other brands. Like what he's doing, there are many other brands that could do that. So if I saw someone wearing, especially if it didn't have a Gucci print on it, if I saw someone wearing a Gucci coat from any recent collection, I would have no clue what brand it is. Because quite honestly, it could be a coat from a million other brands. So that's a brand that lacks an identity, right? So when I say, Y Project is a brand that has identity because it does. It can distinguish itself from the competition because it has a very strong design language, is my point. So that's what I mean when I say that. But good question, because maybe sometimes when I say these things, people don't know exactly what I say. So it's always good to question the points that I make. Exactly what you're saying, Lil C. So you definitely understand. It doesn't have its own flair like a constant within a brand. Exactly. Exactly that. So I almost feel like it's a net loss for creativity in fashion. I like the idea of being able to identify an art style like you could with a painting or any other creative object. Yeah, exactly. And I love being able to do that in fashion. It's very hard to do that, actually. Do you know how difficult it is to design everything from footwear to jackets to shirts to accessories to things like trousers and skirts, and to have a design language that's so strong, it's still identifiable across all those product ranges. That's so hard. Don't exactly know what happened there, but disappeared from my own stream. Don't know what happened there. Um, Luke is saying it's really not that hard. It definitely is. Because so few brands actually have a very strong visual identity and design language, to be very honest. Like, I can actually count the amount of brands that actually have a very strong visual identity, to be honest. It's not too many brands in fashion, especially now. I think it was more of a thing back then, the Issey Miyake's and the Yohji Yamamoto's. And that generation of designers, they definitely had strong visual identities, but I think these newer, like especially a lot of the luxury brands and a lot of new designers, I don't think a lot of them anyway, have very strong design languages. Personally, from what I've observed across fashion. Y Project somehow is how Margiela would have looked like if it was launched in 2015 in a way. I mean the same spirit. Yeah, I mean because Martin used to do that thing too, right? Taking everyday items and changing them slightly. Like take Margiela used to take like denim jackets and then deconstruct them and change the context of it, right? So that's kind of similar to what Glenn Martens is doing, which is why I think Glenn Martens would be a great fit at Margiela. Even though that hasn't been announced, like who exactly is going to replace John Galliano, I still think that Glenn Martens would be an amazing fit. And it also makes sense because he's at Diesel already. So same company. Yeah, someone said even a video you were showing Margello did it already. Yes, he did. Many times actually. I don't think Y Project is as sophisticated as Margiela. I guess you can say that, but I don't think it's they're trying to achieve the same thing. I think the aesthetic of Y Project is a bit more playful than what Margiela is. It's a bit more witty than what Margiela is. So I don't think it's exactly the same. I really wanted to buy Y Project pieces a couple times, but in store, the proportions were all wrong for me. Yeah, I mean, that's also a thing, right? Some of the stuff, because it's so wacky, some of the stuff does fit really awkwardly. So it's really weird to find, your size of clothing. That's actually a big reason why I don't own any clothing from Y Project. I just have like accessories like these sunglasses because I like what they do, but a lot of the stuff didn't fit. But everything that they make is still really fun. Like even these sunglasses are so fun. Like the design is so like cool. I'll show you guys if you guys can see like a close up of it. Like this collaboration with Linda Farrow. Really cool. For me, it's really about the spirit, not really design. Okay, that's interesting. I see what you mean. Wait, what? Margello is somewhat surrealist, while Y Project was cute data. If that makes sense, I guess kind of. It kind of makes sense. This was also the pre-collection where they also did like a how to wear, which was really interesting. This was really cool. Sounding like Karl Lagerfeld. That's why I took my fat ass to the gym because I want these clothes to look good on me. Oh my gosh. Um, Also, I think you can draw parallels between Johan and Glenn Martin's work. When you think of Glenn Martin's background, right? Glenn Martens is someone that studied interior architecture. And like I said, early on in Y Project, when you look at the history, there very much was this sort of sharp angular lines with a lot of the pieces. And I think what Glenn Martens brought to the brand was this very sculptural shape with a lot of the pieces. And I do think that a lot of that is inspired by him just studying interior architecture and all the references to a lot of architectural periods. Fashion will have you on that cigarette and coffee diet. But yeah, this is a denim that I first saw on someone that I was like, oh, this is really interesting. Let me learn about this brand. Because you can style them in so many different ways. And that was something that I just really loved. I like garments that you don't have to buy new things. You can just wear the same thing a million different ways. That's always different cool, especially if the ways that you can style them are actually very interesting, not what everyone does. I feel like the most basic version of that is when people do like removable sleeves and stuff like that. That's not really that interesting. Like even what I'm wearing, like the Andre Minamista piece, it's not that interesting. It's like a zip across the sleeves. There's more like Y Project used to make garments where you could do a lot more than that. Completely detachable compartments. You can even change the length of the dress. You also see the technique on the right hand side again, back to Johan. Why did they go bump? I thought they sold well. No, they didn't. They didn't. I mean, so there seems to be a disconnect sometimes with a brand having a lot of stockists and them actually making big profits. It doesn't always work that way because once again, some of the deals that they sign with these stockists are not favorable to the brands. And so, and then also how it normally works. Let me just explain how these brands normally operate. So normally what happens is when you expand the brand, let's say you start with 10 stockists and then you go to 40 the next season, then 80 the next season, then 100, then 150. By the time you have 150 stockists, you need to scale the brand to meet that demand. So you need to hire more staff, you need to boost your production, you need to produce more garments with your manufacturing processes, whatever factory you're using, however you're making your clothing. So the worst thing that can ever happen to these brands is if you have a bad season. So what a bad season would look like for a lot of these brands is if you have 150 stockists and then for some reason buyers just don't like the next collection and all of a sudden overnight you go down to 60 stockists. Now remember, you've built the infrastructure for 150 stockists. You've started producing the level of, sending garments to 150 stockists. So you now have loads of unnecessary overhead. You have loads of staff members that you probably don't need at this point in time because you're not making the money that would suggest that you need these staff members. And so now there's a problem. Now you're burning a hole in your wallet. And if things don't change very quickly, it's only going to get worse and worse. And with some brands, then the next season it becomes even worse and even worse. And then before you know it, the brand closes down. So sometimes a brand can sell well, but it's not really enough. And sometimes if a brand scales too quickly, they can almost be their worst enemy, where they're one season away from basically decimation. And that is the case with a lot of brands that are existing right now. A lot of the up and coming brands, the smaller brands that show at Milan Fashion Week, they show at Paris Fashion Week, a lot of them are in that position, like loads, more than you think. And starting just having a fashion brand is basically a slot machine with how it all is sometimes. Yeah, I mean, it's a risky business. It's a harsh business. It's very difficult to work out, but once you work it out, you're going to make loads of money. But until you work it out, good luck. Is basically what it is. Yeah, this is also something interesting that Wire Project used to do with the wiring. Like a lot of the they'll have like blazers that had different wires. I think that's even what they're doing right now, where you can kind of change how the lapels scrunch up. You can kind of change also the bottom of the garments. They used to use that a lot. That was really cool. They used to use a lot of those pieces on a lot of the skirts. Although I have heard from my friends that used to own some of those pieces, they weren't the most comfortable pieces to wear though. Because sometimes like over time, those garments would wear and the wiring would go loose and sometimes it could scratch on your skin and like so many other things, right? But as from an aesthetic standpoint, it's really interesting. Wait, these videos remind me of McQueen Ignite, Bridegroom, Strip Bare. Yo, you know what? Now that you mention it, I see the vision. I see the vision. I wonder why doesn't Nick Knight do more of those kind of what he was doing with McQueen when McQueen was alive? Those kind of just going through the process of like making stuff with designers. That would be really cool because obviously Show Studio do things in a very artsy way that I think would make a lot of sense with the way a lot of designers work. Why doesn't he do that? It would be so interesting if he does that. Like those videos are absolutely goated with McQueen just like working away. Yeah, says the look in the middle was amazing. Yeah. I'm just looking at all the different ways that they can transform these garments. It's so interesting. And once again, before this point, even though obviously I've been a fan of Y Project for a while now, um, before this point, even though you could do this with the garments, people didn't know. So this was kind of like a very, very good entryway into a lot of the customers actually seeing firsthand the different ways they can work with their garments. Oh my God, Finn. I'm not going to repeat what you just put in the chat. By the way, Finn, if you want to hop into the live, I feel like you haven't jumped into a live in a while. We would love to have you, but please don't mention what you typed into the chat. Oh my gosh. Please do not say that. But yeah, also something I think should be mentioned when it comes to Y Project, because I think it goes into the styling. Yeah, Finn, I put the link in the chat if you want to join. Is one of the big reasons for Y Project's success, especially in the early days when Glenn Martens had the very smart idea to pivot, is styling. And I think styling is something that is very inherent to the Y Project brand. I think even though styling is like something that is important to every brand, I think you can almost say that styling is a house code when it comes to Y Project, because there were times when in interviews Glenn Martens would literally say that, you know, the there are very strong similarities between menswear and women's wear collections. It's just we styled it in different ways to make it look completely different, and people didn't even realize until he said it. So I found that really interesting. Hello, hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great.
Good.
How have you been? Long time no hear.
I know I've been sick, but I'm okay.
Oh no, I hope you're better now though.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, I won't repeat what I said. Don't worry. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna miss White Project a lot.
Same.
But then like you were saying, you don't own anything from them
Mm,
except for the sunglasses.
yeah.
I only own the Melissa shoes.
Right.
Like I just because they didn't make trousers in bigger sizes. They only made tops up to extra large when I probably needed a double extra large. Because everything like their t-shirts and stuff were quite slim fitting.
Yeah. Very. Most of the
Um,
people I know that wear Y Project are like really skinny to slim women.
yeah,
So yeah, I don't know if I actually know any man that wears Y Project like ever. Like all the people I know that really wear it are all women.
yeah. I know some like when I used to work in retail, there was a few like Chinese guys or like Taiwanese guys that would wear it, and it was like the
Right.
jeans. But other than that, like I never really saw anybody wear it. And then that sample sale they had a couple of weeks ago in London, then I saw loads of people wearing it. So
Yeah, it's probably because of the sample sale, but I mean, in general, like the people that I see that are Y Project stands and the people that wear it that I think look very like interesting,
mhm.
they tend to be the women. It's normally women that I see wearing it.
Yeah, but do you think he's going to go to Margiela?
I hope he does, but I'm not too sure.
Because although artistically it's an upgrade, I guess financially it would be a downgrade.
Right.
Right. Because Diesel is their mother company, like makes so much money for them. I don't
Yeah,
think
Diesel
Margiela's
I
making.
think is actually the brand that makes the most money at OTB.
What is?
Diesel.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I meant.
Yeah, yeah. So
Um,
it is, but I mean, it won't be a downgrade if he does both at the same time, though, which he was doing with Y Project and Diesel anyway. So I don't see why he couldn't do Diesel and Margiela at the same time. It's a lot of work, obviously, but he could do it.
yeah, definitely. But yeah, I don't think he will. I'd love that to happen, but I don't think he will.
Really, I just think not that I'm like downgrading Diesel, but I just think that someone of Glenn Martin's talent level needs an outlet where he can be a bit more creative than what he does with Diesel.
Totally. But then, are we going to see more creative Diesel from this?
Mm, Probably not. I mean, Diesel is and Understitch, by the way, if you guys haven't watched it, has a really good video on Y Project. Because there's something he pointed out in his video that I thought was really interesting, where Glenn Martens, especially when he first went to Diesel, was kind of using Diesel as a place to feed ideas before developing them at Y Project. So he would kind of test ideas in a more commercial way, and then if it works, he would kind of advance it for Y Project. But I think without the Margiela, there's no way for him to really experiment further with those ideas. It would stop at the commercial level of it.
Yeah, totally.
So I don't know. I just think
And
he
sorry,
needs an outlet for that.
yeah, I think as well, like, isn't there like rumors that perhaps he could be going to Jean Paul Gaultier?
I've heard that because for people that don't know, Jean Paul Gaultier for quite a few years now, since he retired himself, has just been doing guest collections, guest couture collections. So we've seen all kind of designers have guest collections, from Glenn Martens himself to Simone Rocha to Olivier Rousteing, like many different designers. Um, and now it's rumored that instead they are now actually looking for a creative director to just take over the helm and start designing collections there. Now, it would make sense for him to go there. I think it makes sense for him to go to a lot of places. Obviously, he worked at Jean Paul Gaultier. That was his first job as a junior designer out of university. Um, he's also done collaborations with Jean Paul Gaultier at Y Project, and he's done a guest collection at Jean Paul Gaultier. So obviously, he has a good relationship with Jean Paul Gaultier himself. He has a good relationship with the brand. It would make all the sense in the world to go there. So that makes
And
sense.
and also the head of design for their commercial collection at the moment is Glenn's ex design consultant for Y3.
Right.
Yeah, or like Glenn's ex head of design for Y3 or something like that.
Yeah.
And now he's head of design at the commercial collections for Jean Paul Gaultier.
That would be cool. I mean, as much as I want to see him go to Margiela, only because when I think of Margiela, I'm like, who else? But
Yeah.
aside from that, yeah, Jean Paul Gaultier would be literally a perfect fit. Like, it couldn't be more perfect.
Um, the blue key left. Um, seeing Simone Rocha there, I agree would be great, but she barely could do her own collection when she was doing the couture. She really struggled. Like she was quite open about it in a few interviews. So I don't think she would ever pick up another house.
Yeah, I don't think Simone Rocha, she doesn't give me the vibe of someone who, I feel like she just wants to have a work-life balance.
Yeah.
She strikes me as someone that actually values that and isn't like, like the typical fashion workhorse that, gives their heart. Like, she obviously takes it seriously, but I mean, like, some people literally put everything into fashion to the detriment of their mental health. I don't think she's that kind of person, which is good, by the way.
And also, how many brands do you know that have been going for like 10 years that have 4 stores
Yeah.
and, a couple of collaborations behind their back and doing really well? Like, I don't think she doesn't have to. It's a bit like Jacques Mousse, like, you know, he's doing fine, sweetie.
Yeah. And she has such a cult following. Like, so many Asians wear her brand. Like, the ones that want to dress in that very, like, girly, ditzy way.
Yeah.
Like, the pearl hair clips. And the thing I love about Simone Rocha, she does so well commercially because she's really good at filtering her ideas into things that make sense commercially.
She makes knickknacks,
Like,
doesn't she? She's good at that.
yeah. Like,
She's
her
good at the
accessories, like, different.
tchotchkes.
Yeah, like hair clips and hair bands. Those sell like crazy.
Yeah, like my mum will buy one of them a season, like maybe in the sale or maybe full price, depending what it is. But
Right.
because she knows she's always going to fit it, and she can just like pop it in her hair or, put an earring in, and it feels like you're identifying with the brand, because she won't buy the clothing, she doesn't fit it.
Yeah. I also
So
will say
ingenious.
that this stuff, when Glenn Martens was doing the whole collab stuff with Jean Paul Gaultier at Y Project, this had fashion in a chokehold.
It's so funny.
These pieces, I could not stop seeing them around the time when they came. Like, I literally got so tired of seeing them. Like,
Yeah.
they were everywhere. And I think if he does go to Jean Paul Gaultier, I think there's certain things that he can actually bring back into the mainstream for sure. I mean, he's already done it, so I don't see why he couldn't do it again.
To be honest, I think his tops, his collaboration he did with them, was kind of the catalyst for them to restart doing some of their mesh again.
Yeah, yeah, because of the success of it.
Definitely, and I think what people realize as well is there is an appetite for that sort of thing, because it's 250 quid. We always talk about this when I'm on here, but it's that attainable price, isn't it? Somebody can save for 250 quid for a top, rather than a 2 grand for a jacket.
And it's actually something that you would want to wear because it's interesting. I mean, because some brands they charge
Yeah,
800 for a t-shirt.
and it's
Um,
Instagrammable.
yeah,
Hate to
that's
say it.
very true. No, you shouldn't hate to say it because I mean, a lot of people dress for. We talk about this all the time. Like a lot of people do dress for Instagram, so when they buy things, they have Instagram in mind, where it's like, will this actually work online?
Mm. I do like a lot of their stuff. Do you know what? I used to be a hater of Y3 when it first came out.
Why do you mean Y Project?
Yeah, sorry, Y Project,
Okay, I was like, why
not
three?
Y3. Um, yeah, I used to be a hater of Y Project because I hated how um, I think you were talking about it earlier, how he would take like archetypes of wardrobes and just change it a little bit, or he would
Right.
continue an idea over a couple of seasons. And I would get a bit bored. I was like, "There's 3 seasons. You've done this like covered fabric idea now. Like, do something else." But then, I would say like the last, probably since he's been at Diesel, actually, I've loved his Y3.
Y Project, you mean?
Y Project. Sorry.
You've got Yoji on your mind.
I know. I saw a pair of shoes today. That's probably what it is. No, I was walking through Bicester Village, and there was a guy. I was like, "Whoa, he's wearing Y3," and he was like a bit of a chav. I'm not gonna lie. And he was in full
Did it look
Y3.
good though? That's what matters. Did it look good?
Yeah, it did actually.
Do you know what's funny with Y3 though? So I only know this because one of my friends is a buyer and he buys Yoji and Y3 and stuff. So the weird thing about Y3 is they went from making really technical garments
Mm,
to over time mirroring Yoji's mainline more and more to the point where it became that Y3 was just making Yoji mainline in cheaper fabrics. So that's when I started buying a lot of Y3 because I couldn't afford Yoji mainline. So I would
yeah.
buy like the Y3 shorts in the Yoji silhouette. But some of them are annoying because it'll be like the Yoji mainline silhouette in a cheaper fabric, but then it would have Y3 embroidered somewhere. It's like I don't want Y3 embroidered. I just wanted the shape at a cheaper price. Like,
Mood.
can you remove this? Like, I would always like remove the tags if there are any, but with the embroidery, you just kind of have to deal with it and be pissed off. But I don't
My
know why they
friends are
do
like,
that. They need to stop doing that.
"Oh yeah, but that'll be an Adidas thing. You just know it."
Yeah.
I bet if Yoji had his way, like, wouldn't have it. Um,
But it says Aya doesn't want them to know he isn't wearing real Yoji. No, that's not why. I just don't like logos. I'm not that pretentious. I just don't like logos everywhere. That's why.
he just doesn't like you knowing that he can't afford the big stuff.
Oh my god, that's funny. Yeah, exactly. Or have the three stripes on Y3 in full caps across a garment sometimes. It's so annoying. It's like the shape is perfect. Let's just reduce the branding slightly. But yeah, it's like you're saying, it's probably an Adidas thing.
I did buy my ex a really fucking hell. Do a live stream thing without talking about an ex. Um, one Christmas, I bought them a cap that was like had a scarf attached to it. That was quite cool,
Nice.
and it was a tone on tone stripe, so you couldn't really see the stripe. I didn't mind that. Some nice little bits. Pretending not to be a person of poverty. Babes, you haven't seen me on a live, I never pretend. It is
Wait,
good though.
gave it the old diffusion line treatment. Yeah,
You look at Y projects and you think they did make great clothes, and actually, when you looked at them in store, like I never questioned the actual quality of them. So they had good factories as well,
100%.
um, which for such a small at the time new brand, it's really hard. And then they got the
And a
collaboration so early.
brand, I was gonna say, and a brand where the price point wasn't insane, also compared to a
Yeah,
lot of
never
other
was.
brands.
Like even for the jackets and stuff, it never was.
Yeah, this is kind of what I was talking about with taking things like bomber jackets and then just like transforming them slightly to make them more witty and wacky.
Yeah, it's insane.
And then the high neckline also, which is referencing the founder, Johan.
They had a collection with like blazers, and then the lapel opened and like scarves came out, like silk scarves. That was
I
really
can't
cool.
remember what collection it was. Let me have a look. 1 second.
It might have been a summer one.
Let's see.
I don't know.
Yeah, so many collections. Off the top of my head, there's certain collections that stand out to me because of like maybe things that happen culturally, like the COVID ones I always remember, the Fila collab ones I always remember, the UGG collab I always remember. Um, Fall into 21 I remember because of the scarves. Um, but yeah, I have to have a bit of a search.
And also, like, I always think about items that I saw on street style. I know that sounds really fucking
That
weird,
too. No, that's
and
not
it
weird at all. I don't think.
and it was always those like cowboy jeans, with the cowboy boots
Yeah,
embroidered on them. Um, and so they had loads of pieces that made you think, especially as a person that like watches fashion, that they're doing very well. But like you said, you can have one day you're in, the next day you're out. Like a lot of brands this year are going to go out of business.
oh, 100%. Like, it's sad to say, and it almost like hurts me to say because a lot of these brands I would like if they, existed and actually stood the test of time. But the reality of the business of fashion is just harsh.
Let's just say there was a marriage today and it was an end of an era.
Oh my God, Jordan Luca. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
You're
well,
saying
maybe.
like it literally wasn't all over the internet.
I don't fucking know. They don't have a team anymore. That's not private.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, them having a marriage and stuff, that's all over the internet though.
Yeah, I know. It's fucking weird.
It was a bit strange. Like at a runway show? I don't know.
And did you
Um
hear that they locked everybody in?
okay, I didn't hear that.
It had like apparently there was a couple of editors that were like, I can't get out, and everybody was like, well,
Uh-oh.
you're gonna have to sit through it for 20 minutes.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Those are the signs of designers that do not care anymore. Um
What the fuck is that?
yeah, it's like bedazzling at the nipples. Well, I mean, not every woman's boobies are in that position, but yeah. Um, these kind of thigh panels are interesting, though. I think they're
Yeah,
kind of cool.
I think
But
they,
that's the
and then
thing.
also I think they did. Go on.
No, I was just gonna say that's also something that I found fun about Y Project because in this experimentation, some of the things would just be like a bit insane, and I think over time he was able to refine it into finding that perfect balance between like how far can I transform these everyday garments until it becomes just too far. I think it's something that he worked on over time and mastered it by the end.
There was definitely, um, but do you think that this might sound like, what's that 80s brand? Face Map?
Yeah,
Is it Face? Is it Face Map?
yeah. Well,
That
oh,
was
I
only
think
a
you mean Body Map.
Body Map.
Body
That's
Map.
it. Sorry.
Yeah, Body Map. Yeah.
Like they were only a couple of seasons, and their impact was like quite huge for the time. And I,
Huge. Oh, they had an insane impact. Till today, people talk about Body Map all the time.
yeah, their knitwear is insane still.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
I think sometimes like people have this onus on like brands lasting forever. And when you really think about it, there's only about 10.
True.
Do you know what I mean? It's okay for them to have a period.
Yeah, I mean, you are right because yeah, you can if you make enough noise, you can actually like be remembered. It doesn't matter if like you're still not producing. So that is true because yeah, Body Map is a brand that people really talk about, and they weren't even around for that long.
Or like Boy London. Boy London, remember when they had that
Yeah,
revival early 2000s? Jesus.
yeah, that wasn't great, but
Yeah.
they should have left us to ponder on the past. But
But I just think, there's like a lot of brands, unless you get a huge financial backing, or to be honest, I'm surprised Y3 wasn't bought by Only the Brave.
you mean Y Project?
Yeah, that one.
Um, I don't know because I just think it would have been too expensive. Like I was saying
Mm.
earlier, that one of the reasons why they eventually had to close down is because the company was placed in receivership in September last year.
Oh,
Um,
really?
and at that, yeah, and at that point, you're probably in so much debt, which is why you're in receivership in the first place. So if a company was buying that, they would first have to pay off all the debts, which I have no idea how much debt they were actually in. I have
I could probably guess.
like who knows? It could be millions. It could be. So as a business person, is that a good investment? Like, are you going to recoup your money back? Did Y Project make enough money to where you could see potential where you can make all your money back, even though in the beginning you're putting in a massive investment because you're paying all this debt off up front? So I don't know. I don't think it, as much as it hurts me to say this because I love Y Project, I don't think it would have been a good investment for anyone, to be fair. Which is why,
Yeah.
once again, I don't know why people are surprised. Like, oh my God, why didn't anyone buy the brand? I don't think it's surprising if you
Yeah.
consider the circumstance.
Yeah. And nothing's doing very well at the moment. So,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, look at Burberry.
jeez. That's a whole different conversation.
Mate, I went to the outlet today. Insane.
Yeah, Vista Village and the outlet, everything has been going crazy with Burberry.
In the outlet, everyone's fat. I got a fucking runway bag that I've been waiting for since the start of season for £250.
What, from Burberry?
Yeah, it's a £3,000 bag.
Damn. I mean, it's £3,000
Retail.
when retail when they decided to price things stupidly.
Yeah,
Um, so to be fair, it's a price correct anyway.
yeah, exactly. And we were actually, sorry, I know we're talking about Y Project, um, but we were talking about this in the car, me and my mum, and she bought some stuff, and she was like, to be honest, I can understand why this didn't sell because she was like, why is this scarf £1,000? Um, and she was like, I don't think anybody's going to buy £1,000 scarf from Burberry. They're going to buy a £250 scarf from Burberry.
Do you know what I don't understand about like we're gonna talk about Burberry quickly and then we'll go back to Y Project. I think
Sorry.
it all kind of no, I think it's relevant because we're talking about now pricing and like business and why a lot of these brands fail. I don't understand why the CEO of Burberry like former CEO, not the current one, didn't understand all these things. Like, I mean, I said it way before that the pricing doesn't make sense. Almost everyone said it. The customers said it. Like, how out of touch do you think that CEO was that they couldn't see what literally everyone could see in plain daylight?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, the quality is amazing, I have to say, but
Oh no, it is. It is. That is definitely something I can say. Like everyone that's picked up pieces. I was in Antwerp recently, and someone that I was with was wearing a lot of like Burberry that they had gotten recently from an outlet, and the quality was really good. Like Daniel
insane.
Lee runway stuff, it was really really good.
Like I picked up a jumper today, which is a 80% mohair, 10% cashmere, 5% um elastin, and then something else. It's like a transparent like knit thing. And I was like, this is actually insane quality. I haven't seen quality like this in years. Um it wasn't worth £850 when it came out.
Right.
Um
um,
yeah.
is there a way to turn up my volume? So the issue is how I set my microphone, because sometimes my microphone clips. So where I'm talking and then my voice goes too loud and then it distorts. So I've set my microphone at the perfect level for me to never clip, even if I like shout like that. It's not going to clip. If I increase the audio levels anymore, maybe obviously if I'm talking like this, then it'll be fine. But I have a tendency to shout at times, and if I do that, then it will distort, and that won't be great for anyone. But I'll try to talk louder. That's what I'll do.
Last thing I'll say on Burberry as well is that apparently Daniel Lee's gone.
I've heard that actually.
I found out the other day
Yeah,
because he's
I've
back on
I've heard
Hinge.
about that. Wait, what?
He's
Is
back on
that an
Hinge.
indicator that he's leaving Burberry?
Nah, I think
Being
he's
back
actually
on
just
Hinge.
gone because they might be cancelling the runway show. That was the indicator, but then I saw him on Hinge.
Okay, it's like damn. I thought he would be on like what's that at Raya or something like that.
Yeah, same, but maybe he just wants a normal boy.
Fairs.
He doesn't want a little international DJ. Says his ex, who's literally a famous dancer.
Finn comes here and reveals all the tea. I know, right? We always need a dose of Finn.
I know. I've not really got any tea, guys. I've been living under a rock. I haven't left the house this winter.
So everyone's putting their prices up there, so Barbie thought they could jump on a bandwagon. No. So let me tell you what the issue was with
It wasn't
Burberry.
that.
It wasn't that because I feel like they hired Daniel Lee because they, for some reason, got it in their head they can compete with Bottega or increase prices to the level of Bottega. If they just increase prices, like with inflation or like slightly, I don't think anyone would have cared. It's the literally things that used to sell for like 300 overnight were 1,200, like literally overnight when they decided they were going to increase prices. No one like that is what didn't make sense. So increasing prices is like every brand does that, and historically every brand has done that. I mean, Chanel increases prices every single year. That's not the issue. It's
Babes every single
the
week.
rate every single week.
Yeah, the
But
rate
yeah,
of
I think it
impro.
was the rate.
I mean, yeah, like you said, went from being it was 400 quid, all of a sudden it's £1,000. Mad.
It's like just because you hire the designer from Bottega doesn't mean Burberry now turns into Bottega. That's not how that works.
Just because you hired the guy that got fired from Bottega doesn't mean that you're gonna have the messy,
Damn.
messy. Um,
I'm trying to see. There's a Y Project collection I really liked. I think it was Fall Winter 21. Yeah, this collection.
that's a good collection.
The one with the scarves and stuff that I always talk about. And because I've seen people actually wear them. That's why it stands out to me. Because people actually wear those pieces. Can you briefly explain why Bottega's price makes sense coming from a place of curiosity? Because their prices have always been stupidly high. So it if a brand is known for having stupidly high prices like Bottega or Hermes or The Row from when it started, them increasing prices doesn't really mean anything because their customer base is used to that and they probably have a customer base of people that can afford things at that price point anyway. Whereas Burberry wasn't their market. So by increasing prices to Bottega, well, you don't have the Bottega customers because you're not them, and you've alienated the customer base that you do have. So now you're left with no customers, which means you're going to lose money and you're not going to sell, which is exactly what happened. So that's why Bottega's prices make sense.
But they don't make sense, but they do.
They don't make sense in a sense that, like, obviously you're paying a lot for the name, but they make sense in the sense of, like, from a business standpoint, that if you think of market segments,
Yeah,
Bottega
I agree.
sits in a market segment that means that they can charge those prices because that's what the
Competes with
consumers are
Loewe.
used to. Yeah,
Apparently, from the PRs anyway. Nobody at the PR agency that represented Loewe could wear Bottega.
really.
Yeah, it was banned in the office.
Oh my god. I know brands are very strict on like competitors, and that's why even in the contracts they have all these clauses about designers not being allowed to go to competitor brands just in case they
Hmm.
start sharing secrets. I think they have to wait like a year or two or something like that. Um, but that serious? They can't even wear it? That's
Hmm.
crazy.
There's a sign on the wall at a certain PR agency in London.
Wow, that's
Anyway,
serious. I didn't know it was that deep.
yeah. I love this collection.
Oh no, I absolutely love this.
The idea of like a static ruffle is kind of genius. Like with the denim, like the ruffles don't move, but just
Yeah.
the fluidity it brought is kind of just genius. Like that.
And I like that you can also change it too. You can like change the position of how it sits.
I hate to be that person, but it feels like Demna started to copy a few of Glenn's ideas.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, do you remember when they first did the first couple of collections? It was all like they're copying Vetements.
Yeah.
Sorry, girlies.
But I think, I mean, Demna doesn't, and this is something that totally unrelated topic, but I think it's interesting. Reggie did a live stream today and was talking about Japanese fashion for like 5 hours, which was really interesting because I was like listening in and then like doing my work. But a really good point that Reggie brought up is that a lot of Japanese designers will tell you where their inspiration comes from because they're skilled enough to be able to tell you where their inspiration comes from, but then still rely on their skills to be able to transform it enough to where it's not a copy. But with a lot of Western designers, they try to be like really mysterious. But it's like we know who you copied your shit from. Like Demna, we know those incognito glasses are literally Margiela. Like
Yeah.
no change. You copy that homework one of one, and like we know that who's that Slavic guy, the homeless guy
Oh my
that
god, I love
Balenciaga
him.
copies. Balenciaga has literally copied his looks like word for word, like bar for bar, exactly the same. Even styled the same way, also on the runway.
Yeah, I do love that. Somebody just put Camper Lab clothing. Wow.
Jeez.
Let's not do that.
If the prices rose over time as the brand grew and the logo gained a certain prestige, the price increase wouldn't feel so dramatic and sudden. Yeah, that was their main issue. It was just too quick, too soon.
And it wasn't like Daniel Lee's name wasn't a John Galliano. Do you know what I mean?
Facts.
It couldn't increase the price that much like they did with Margiela when Galliano went there.
Because it's kind
Right.
of weird. I think I think. Would you say that Daniel Lee is a big name designer? Like, I wouldn't really say so. I think, even though in fashion he's very famous, I'm trying to think outside of fashion, like pop culture wise. I don't think actually people do know who Daniel Lee is because I've heard rappers rap about him, but not
Yeah,
the
but he
amount
was
of
in their
people that.
pants though, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Sorry, when he did that Detroit collection.
that's true. But I'm trying to think in general. Like, I don't think the average person knows Daniel Lee like that.
No, and that's the problem is that I think, he did incredibly well at Bottega very quickly, made a lot of money for them, made it modern, if we're being honest. Um, and then I think it got to his head really quickly. I think it got the industry's head, not just his, by the way.
Mm. I think he did a sensational job at Bottega though, so I don't
So
blame
do
him.
I. So do I.
Like, if I if I did all that good work at Bottega, I probably would have an ego the size of Lagos. No, I'm joking. I probably wouldn't, but
I
maybe
just
who knows?
doubled you. No, I think, but in all honesty, I think if he had done a bit longer at Bottega and maybe did like a 7 year stint or something, then I think maybe Burberry could have done what they did and like a bit of a price jump because he would have been like
Yeah.
famous for the guy that made Bottega cool again, sort of thing.
Yeah, why I was asking like with the big names is because like when I think of big name designers, I think of designers that when they go to a house, they bring a whole customer base, like Eddie
Ricardo
Slimane,
Tisci.
Phoebe Philo, um, not Ricardo Tisci. I don't think he can bring a whole customer base to a brand. That was very shady. Um, I'm trying to think who else is in that realm. I think Alessandro Michele is in that realm too. Um, there's a few. There aren't too many. So I think they kind of overestimated his ability to kind of bring an audience. Maybe why that's why they thought they could charge Bottega prices because they thought
Kim
he
Jones?
would bring some of the customer base. Kim Jones. So the thing about Kim Jones, he's a bit of a weird one where Kim Jones is a big name designer. I would put him amongst those names. But I don't necessarily think that he could go to a brand and bring a whole customer base there. I don't think so.
You don't think he did that with LV? Then to Dior?
No, because I kind of think it's kind of like the same customer. It's kind of like
Real.
a similar customer, similar price point. I don't think so. I think it's kind of
Right.
like one in the same. For that to be proven, he would have to go to a brand that's very different price point, that kind of stuff.
Like Fendi and then it failed.
Well, exactly. So if if
I
anything, that
disproved
shows
my
that
own
he
point.
probably can't. Yeah.
Right. I'm going to go for dinner, but it was nice chatting to you.
Enjoy your dinner.
Bye, guys. Bye.
What Leo is saying, okay, Daniel Lee is an important name inside of fashion. Oh no, 100%. But once again, when it comes to making money, especially for these big houses, it's not about if you're a big name in fashion because most people that buy your clothing don't care about fashion. Like, they don't know the names of creative directors and all that sort of stuff. So if you're so big and larger than life that people actually know your name, that can only be a plus. You have to think of who is popular in the mainstream because those are the people that really move the needle when it comes to sales figures. Canada Goose collab. They had Y Project had so many good collabs over the years, like, and every single collab just hit. Y Project, the way they do collabs is the way that I hoped every brand does collabs, but a lot of brands just like do the lazy thing and cut corners and don't really do the collaboration properly. They kind of just do kind of like the Skims thing where you just take stock that hasn't sold and you rebrand it, add a bit of embroidery and call it a collaboration instead of actually like taking the time and doing interesting things. Like on their website, they have a lot of the collaborations that they've done, like the campaigns, like Salomon and White Project. It's really cool. They have the Melissa Y Project collab, which I thought was really cool too. This had social media in a chokehold. in a serious chokehold. Obviously, they had the Canada Goose collab. They had the Fila collaboration. This is from the Fila campaign. Let's just mute that audio before I get copyrighted. I honestly just think that they did some of the best collaborations. Transition from Maya's Bottega Veneta to Lee's BV was Stark. Far more Stark than Lee's to Blazee's. Oh, 100%. I agree with you there. That's definitely facts. I think, if anything, Matteo Blazee's Bottega was a seamless transition from Daniel Lee's. But it's because they are working closely together anyway, so it makes sense why it would be so seamless. You have some more Y Project Melissa campaigns. Really, really cool. They've got some other campaigns. They have the campaigns from the Canada Goose collaborations too. Let's have a look at those. Really cool. Okay, they've got the UGG campaign. It's very interesting. Yeah, sick campaign. I didn't know they collaborated with Canada Goose. They sure did. They sure did. They've done loads of collaborations, and not all of them are, that well publicized. Like even these sunglasses, like they had a collaboration with Linda Farrow. I don't think a lot of people know about that collaboration, to be fair. Let me Google it. Linda Farrow Y Projects. Um, do they have a campaign? I want to see if they did a campaign. Okay, so it was Spring Summer 19 where a lot of the. So let's have a look on Vogue Runway. Spring Summer 19 was where a lot of these sunglasses featured. It's from Spring Summer 19. 1 second. Bear with me, bear with me. Love how over collections you could combine certain embellishments, snap button panels and belts with other pieces. Styling their stuff is enough entertainment. Yeah, facts. That's why earlier I said that I genuinely believe that one of the house codes of Y Project is actually the styling in and of itself. Even though that kind of sounds crazy, because like styling, it's like styling. Every brand cares about styling. But in reality, um, it's such a core facet to what they did, especially under Glenn Martens, right? Why can't I find these? Wait, Linda Farrow project. Let's see. We'll just go on Google Images, see what comes up. Yeah, but this is like from the collaboration. It kind of went really under the radar. So yeah, I think a lot of the collaborations did go under the radar, but take it from me, I think they did really, really good collaborations over the years. Amazing collaborations over the years. But anyway, guys, that's kind of the rundown on what's been going on with Y Project. It was good to kind of ponder and look at some of the things that Glenn Martens did during his time at Y Project and really just, it's a sad day because I'm a big fan of Y Project and it's just sad when a brand that's very interesting, has a very distinctive identity goes. I don't think it's a good day for fashion. I think it's a net positive that Y Project is no longer around. But I think it's a brand that will always be remembered, a strong history, kind of what Finn was alluding to earlier. There are many brands that didn't really have a long run, but they made enough of an impact to be remembered in fashion history, like Body Map. So I hope that Y Project is remembered in that same ilk of names. So yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. it is now officially Fashion Week season, so you will catch me on a lot of parts of the day doing runway analysis for a lot of the latest runway shows. Let me know, join the Discord if you can, subscribe to the Patreon for extra content, and if you have a Spotify membership, then you can watch my live streams back via Spotify. I will be seeing you guys in the next stream. See you guys later.